Well, I'm Bradford Ulrich. I'm a product designer at Sonic Drive-In, and Sam is my boss, technically. He's been my boss, and then not my boss, and my boss again, so we kind of just gotten used to it being fluid. And we work for Sonic Drive-In. It's a little different than Zach's work in trying to keep people healthy, but we do the best that we can. And so Sam and I both started, let me go back a little bit here. There we go. We both started about 3 years ago at Sonic. Sonic had a history of going from agency to agency to agency for every project they did. And so everything was a campaign, and nothing was really a product. And so they had kind of an API sitting around, but it's something we're still trying to retire. But there wasn't really a product vision for the company. And so what we've tried to do over the past few years is instill product thinking and get people out of the kind of microsite mentality they've been in the past. And so let me just get a few things out of the way here. We don't know them. They have come into the office a couple times. We don't really have an opinion, good or bad, on them. And I think we're coming on 10 seconds, so that's like $4,000 to show that picture of them. They're very expensive. Two, yes, we are working on tipping. We get that question a lot. We are trying our best we can. The UI has been done for a year. It's more that there's 3,500 payroll systems that we have to talk to with a franchise system. So we're working on that. We'll get it there later this year. It's really, really hard. So just to go through some of the products that we work on at Sonic, the first product we tackled was redesigning the website, and this was about 3 years ago. It's, I think, aged okay, but we're redesigning it again in the fall. So we'll be creating a new one. So if you hate it, let me know what you hate and tell me what you want to replace. The app is the second piece of that. We just launched a new app about a month ago. It was a struggle working with the old one for a long time, but we're pretty proud of it. And so this summer, we're going to have a lot more things like we're ordering, tipping eventually. And so it's a product. It's going to be a living thing, and we're going to add to it. But we're trying to teach that to the company as we go. The third piece is the touchscreens at Sonic. It's called POPs internally. People call it a bunch of different things. But it's the point of personalized service. And so we're trying to make it more personalized over time. Right now, it's kind of an advertising platform, but if you interact with the app, you can check in to the screen at the stall, and it creates a more personalized experience so that you can pay with your phone right now, but eventually you'll be able to pick up your order and see your favorites and get recommendations and things like that. Zach at Future House actually helped design a lot of the stuff that we show here on Pops. So thank you, Zach. Looks good. And it's actually out there now, which is cool. And so, okay, let's get back to the beginning. So what is product design, I guess is what we're talking about. This is a question I asked myself a few years ago. It wasn't really like a philosophical thing. It was literally, I asked myself this because I was interviewing for a product design job, kind of like Ty. And so I knew I was like a UI designer, I was a UX designer, I was whatever you want to call it these days, and I saw a lot of crap like this. And so it was like UI versus UX versus product versus whatever you want to call it this week. But really, I mean, this one is the best example I've seen of it, is that it's kind of an evolution of like, you do this, you pick up skills here and there, and it's really changing with how technology changes. So first we were designing websites, then we were designing apps, then we kind of had to get a little more broad, and now we design products because these things have to last more than the microsite life cycle. And so product design is software design. It's something that evolves over time.
Yeah, so product design, software design, if you want to go to the next one. I think we look at this list right here and we say, okay, UX, UI, copywriting, prototyping, code, and how does that fit into a product designer's daily kind of schedule? And then from that standpoint, maybe their counterpart is a product owner or someone who's managing that product. And from our kind of experience, and I think I've been in from a project coordinator in my early days to working with Zach at YouVersion as kind of a project lead on the management of that product throughout the life cycle. A product owner, product designer is a lot of these things. And when we're looking at it from a team standpoint, we want product owners and product designers that are strong in a couple of those areas, because more than anything, they're a collaborator. There's somebody who are going to branch into, at Sonic, our vendor partners who then do work for us. So they have to have a broad understanding about all of these things, and they might be really good at one thing. And so we go, I think, to the next one. Yes, oh, sorry, that might have stole Brad's thunder here, but not all designers should code. Designers who design things that will be coded should code. And I think like he's going to comment on this in a second. But that's what we're looking for, is people that are just really passionate about building things and can concept and have a strength in an area that then can be in a team fashion kind of make the entire project win. You saw that with some of the stuff on Pops. We utilized a lot of product designers, and there's 3 designers that actually whose work made it into the final design.
I don't have much else to say to this. I think it's important to know your materials, and I think that if you're designing something that's going to be coded, the more that CSS advances, the more that the internet advances and apps, you have to know how these materials actually interact, and you can't just draw a picture of it. So we talked about this earlier. If your design evolves and adapts rather than being replaced after a couple of years, you're probably working on a product. And Sam, you're going to talk about this one a little bit more. As digital experiences become more integrated, companies need to give them more attention.
Yes, so everything that we do at Sonic is 3 platforms. You got to think of Pops, mobile, and app. We have updated all those 3 platforms in the past 3 years, so the trifecta was the mobile app, and now they're all talking together. And I think from an omni-channel perspective, like as a product designer, product owner, you have to be thinking about more than just web, more than just mobile, more than just a touch screen. They have to be integrated because the business is asking for personalization. They're asking for, if I do this on this channel, what will it do on that channel? Responsiveness. And I think from a product owner or product designer standpoint, like having that in your mind, and then from a developer as well, how do these things branch? What do I have to create from the, I love the talk of the plumbing and everything they have to create to support then all these experiences omni-channel. Over the past year, I was actually down in IT working on technical delivery because we had no infrastructure, no APIs, nothing to allow us to do product ordering at a store. So it took us an entire year and a lot of money to get to the point where we can now iterate really quickly on a product standpoint.
I don't know, I'm kind of lost here. Key premise of the next decade: it's easier for software to enter other industries than for other industries to hire software people, especially in Oklahoma City. We might need some help with that, tech systems. But basically, you see that industries are being taken over by software companies, people who are launching with brand new tech and no dependencies and no legacy and no stores running Windows 98 and old POS systems to have to support. And they're able to just leapfrog people. And so companies like Sonic need to really catch up. And I think I want to talk to you more about how GE is doing it. But we need to be able to catch up and to be able to move at a pace and at a scale that we haven't before. I'm just going to leave this up here. I'm not going to explain it. It's something you can read later. But it's kind of a progression of how we see design influencing companies over time. Here's a good example. How many people in here have a bank account? A lot. How many people have the app for your bank? Has anybody never gone back to the bank after you got the app? The app is literally, I have 3 different banks, and I never go to the bank. I just use apps for all of them, and that's the only brand touch point I have with my bank anymore, is using their app. And so as digital kind of just eats things and eats parts of your product experience, you have to invest more in it, because things are going to happen where you're going to be up against a competitor that doesn't have any stores. All they have is their app, and their app is freaking awesome. And so when it comes to Sonic, the red button is the thing that we have that's kind of a historical thing. It's the drive-in, but it's going to be in the app in a few months because it's going to have to be. And so we're trying to figure out how to explain to Sonic how to invest in that, because we can pull all of the interaction off lot and then have all that we really need on lot. It saves us a lot of money in the long run. This is our last pitch for the Sonic app. If you've never downloaded it before and you don't have a Sonic account, you can get a free slush when you download the app. That's all I have to say. There's a lot of fraud reasons why we can't give them to everybody, but there we go. Okay, here you go.
All right, transitioning. So originally it was Sonic and Woodshed, and we try and separate the two because at work we can't talk about Woodshed. We can only talk about Woodshed outside of work. And Woodshed is a side project that Brad and I started about 2 years ago with another guy. And really what Woodshed was kind of a birth out of that side project mentality. And I think if you're a designer, you're somebody who's building something, a developer, like what are you building in those off hours that you can be proud of? If you're working at a corporation, sometimes the process is super slow. We've been here 3 years. It's taken us 3 years to launch 3 different apps on a platform. And that is a slow and arduous process. And I think from a side project standpoint, there's just so many things you can do. And so I'm passionate about coffee and tea. We'll get into a little bit on, you can go to the next one. Oh, no, that's yours. Sorry about that. But we'll come back to me in a second.
So a little reason on why I own part of a tea company now. I didn't drink tea. I didn't know anything about tea. This is what I thought of when I thought of tea was papyrus. And then if you want to talk fancy tea, you're talking triangle bags. And that's where it really gets exciting. But really, whenever I met Sam at Sonic, we kind of bonded over coffee. It was like the typical designer thing. He's like, oh, you like really good coffee? Really? Me too. But he really liked tea, and so he introduced me to tea and showed me that tea is actually really, really cool and really interesting on its own, and it's not just in tea bags. And so for me, this was a really cool visual problem to be able to explain this to people and make this really be interesting beyond just buying tea bags. And the brewing process for tea in itself is really beautiful too.
Yeah, so wanted to talk really quickly about why tea and what are we doing with tea as it relates to the digital product. Because we started, we're talking about Sonic and the digital products we're doing there, and we wanted to kind of showcase from a side project standpoint the things we can do when we can really own everything. At Sonic, we have a lot of limitations. We have a ton of different departments and teams that have a say into what we're building, and so there's these guardrails that we always have to kind of go within. With Woodshed, we can create and deliver something in what I probably spend maybe 4 hours a week on it, and I do the packaging. So I mean, that's mainly what I do. And Brad spends, we both have newborns, so he spends a little bit of time, not very much time, but we want to be proud of things that we release. And so when I was at a startup in Salt Lake City at Alpha Dimensi, nobody wanted to do tea. They were just doing coffee brewer and wanted to do coffee. And I said, hey, I'm doing sales and marketing for them, so I'll learn tea, no big deal. And we found that tea actually became the #1 reason people wanted this machine. And a lot of it is because the experience and the color. And so with that kind of mindset, we really went into the development process of our website. So we said, how can we build a very simple website that really showcases a small amount of curated teas using color? So real quickly, we'll go through kind of the Ginger Mint, Nilgiri Blue Mountain, and the High Mountain Oolong. And wanting that color to kind of bring through the process into our digital product. And then I want to pass it to Brad because we started out very like most lovable product. What's the cheapest way we get to something and get it out the door? And this was the first iteration of our packaging.
One of the I'll go real quick. One of the great things about having your own company is you can do whatever you want and you can change your packaging whenever you want, and we can make this new stuff, and so we don't have to get approved. I just have to have Sam approve it. And then we decide to change it, and we might change it again. But that's our new packaging. We have mailers. This is stuff that we probably would buy the really cheap, crappy stuff, but we tried it out because we thought it was cool. And so we've gotten to do a lot of interesting things with Woodshed that we probably wouldn't have gotten to do otherwise. We get to write our own copy, which is fun. We built a brewing timer for our website that I'm sure nobody really uses other than me, but I like it, and it's fun. I did not want to think about exercising with like a stopwatch timer in the morning, and so I decided I wanted something a little more zen to drink tea with. But it's really fun to build stuff like this. And kind of going to Sam's point, the digital design and physical design kind of going back and forth. When we built the tea timer, it influenced the way that we did our packaging. And so on the new packaging, we have these icons. It's a little bit more, almost a little UI, instead of that text description that we had before. I think that's all.
Yeah, I think in closing, hopefully that you want to take away a couple things. Is one, product design from a big corporation standpoint, there's a lot you can do, and you have access to money and funds and things that you'll never get to work on. There's a lot of problems to solve. Then on, and there's a lot of scale, a lot of people using it, and a lot of feedback. And then on a side project standpoint, you can have fun, and you can be really passionate about something that you love and that you want to share with others. So that's kind of the end of our little talk. We'll take some questions, and we are giving away 2 bags of tea. So maybe if there's like a sign-up sheet, we can just randomly pick 2 people off that sign-up sheet, but we can do that in a bit. Questions? Yeah, I'll try and answer it, and then you can probably add some detail. But so because our in-store experience is really non-existent, it's car, and you drive up, the stall is really our in-store experience. So what we've tried to do from a design system standpoint is first get a normalized style guide. So you'll see some consistency on POPs, mobile, and the web. Now those are just going to get better, and Brad can probably go on a diatribe about how you get from a style guide to a design system as a brand, and that's really important. And I think that gets to what you're saying, is in a brand you have the store to take into account. And so what is Sonic, and how do you design towards Sonic while also pushing the boundary?
I'm not sure if you're asking more from a design standpoint or from like a technical standpoint of how we're bridging the like digital experience while you're at the store, you mean? I think that's what we try to do with creating that personalized experience with the stalls, to where you can check in at an individual screen. We're trying to make it to where whenever you check in, you don't do it at the very end. Originally, we had a mobile payment solution that it only let you authenticate right at the very end, so we didn't know who you were until you paid and you were about to leave. And what we're trying to do with check-in is not really force that on you, but allow you to check in earlier in the process so that we can enable that more personalized experience. One of the things we've talked about, one of the things we talked about, I never know because we're like a real company and stuff, but is a heads-up display inside the drive-in that would be connected to our actual user accounts. So if somebody drives up who has the app, we know who they are, we know what they order, we know what their favorites are. Borderline creepy, but it actually is a real experience at the drive-ins, especially in these small towns where you have one drive-in that's maybe one of a few restaurants. Everybody knows the people who are there, and you see the same people every day. And so if we can take that like super personalized experience you get with people and turn that into a technological advancement that we can put in the rest of the stores for the people who aren't that great, we can really power up the store experience a little bit more.
Yeah, so we launched a year and a half ago, and I think because I had knowledge coming of the industry coming in, that would have probably been the biggest obstacle, and then really money, because we're going between Sonic, where we have literally a lot of money, and then to our own thing where we're funding it out of our own pocket. I think that's one of the biggest obstacles. Design-wise, it's a niche, right? It's not something that a lot of people know about, and so being able to educate people about tea with our product is the biggest goal. We don't want to overwhelm you with options. We want to give you a curated list and then really teach you about those things. So right now it's really education. Oh yeah, I mean it is bootstrapped. It is our kind of funded from our wallets and our time. So right now that's how we're operating, and everything's most lovable product. So to that point is we're building stuff on our off hours and trying to get it to a place. And really we operate Sonic in a lot of the same ways. It just takes a lot longer to get to that point. You just see releases take a lot of time, even though from our standpoint we designed it really quickly in that methodology at the beginning. Cool. Last one. How are we doing? I might have an answer. I mean, I don't know. I think like absolutely. So Brad and I, and the way we work, and much like back in the day when Zach and I were together, it's a lot of conceptualizing options for users, taking to the customer to prototype, and then bringing it back into the application and seeing how it works. And so the concept of order ahead has been done for almost a year and a half, maybe 2 years, but we're now seeing it in play, right at play. And I think the same thing that we've done in Woodshed. Brad could probably speak to specifics, but I mean the brew guide for one. I mean there's probably 100 options of how we've taken some of that design that we've gotten to go a little bit ahead on and brought it back into Sonic.
I got nothing.